How do you know if we start talking about old village temples and how we worshipped and how we went and what kind of food we ate and all that? You think the culture of a people is confined to the temples that they build or the universities or the cement and the stone blocks, buildings that they build? Culture is the people, how they practice it. So I thought we should start something based on the temple, how the temple is running, so that the young people, whether they are from Sri Lanka or India or Singapore or Holland or Denmark, doesn't matter. They should have an exposure to this thing and understand why. And what is the symbol of a Siva? The Vibhuti, isn't it? So I called it VSI, Vibhuti, Sci-Fi Immersion. And it was started to teach kids like you the culture, the ups and downs of how it is and what the worship is like, how they dress, how they ate. How they sang. And Vibhuti also means the grace that comes from a deity.
Shrimatre Namaha. Namaskaram everyone, and welcome back to our Sacred Rites and Rituals of Sanatana Dharma Learning Series, which is a joint presentation by the Sri Vidya Temple Society of Rochester, New York, USA, and Ashtanga Yoga Mandir of Sri Lanka. These lectures are conducted by Sri Chaitanya, affectionately known as Ayya. Ayya is the founder and Peethadipati of the Sri Vidya Temple. Both Ayya and Amma, Srimati Jnanamba, have dedicated their lives to the noble mission of preserving and spreading the knowledge of Devi worship and the rich traditions of Saiva Bhakti. Vibhuti Sci-Fi Immersion, which is also known as VSI, is a one-week-long overnight program conducted by the Sri Vidya Temple Society for children. This year, VSI will run from Saturday, July 30th, 2022 to Saturday, August 6th, 2022. This year's program will be our 18th year of VSI and will be conducted in person. As our temple is a learning temple, it is an ideal place for kids to get involved and truly experience the wealth of Saiva philosophy and worship. Through inspirational and educational classes with Ayya, presentations from guest speakers, and sessions with the counselors, each child is encouraged to find his or her own personal connection with Saiva culture and devotion in a fun-filled setting. Participants must be 10 years old by July 30th, 2022, which is the first day of VSI to be eligible for the program. The age requirement for the camper program is 10 to 15 years old. The deadline to apply is May 14, 2022. In addition to the camper program, we cannot forget our young at heart learners, which are the parents. Our VSI parent program provides a rare opportunity for parents to learn about the Saivite traditions while receiving the opportunity to perform seva for the temple. This is a great opportunity to connect with the sacred culture, values, and practice of Sanātana Dharma. In fact, parents play a needed and vital role in the smooth functioning of VSI. It could not function without the support of our wonderful parents. We encourage both fathers and mothers to sign up for the parent program. Priority will be given to parents who have children registered in the program. Just a note to all, we will not have our yoga session for today. And for those who are interested in viewing content shared during these discussions and these sessions, please note that all content being discussed in these sessions will be posted after the conclusion of the respective topic on our webpage. Please use the question form to share any questions you might have pertaining to the content discussed. For those viewing our live stream, our question form can also be found on our webpage, which is srividya.org/AYM-lectures. At this time, we will hand it over to Ayya to begin today's session.
Om Hamsa Siva Soham Hamsaha Hasaka Frame Hasakshamalavarayoom Hasam Sahakshamalavarayim Saho Swarupa Nirupana Hetave Swagurave Sri Annapurneshwari Amba Samena Srila Sri Amrutanandana Saraswati Mahapattaraka Sri Guru Sri Padukam Pujayami Tarpayami Namaha. My humble pranams to my esteemed Guruji, Srila Sri Amrutanandana Saraswati of Devipuram, India. I prostrate before him and implore that he sit on my open heart lotus and speak through me. Now, over the last few weeks, we have been discussing the Chaturvimsati Murthy Dhyanam, which detail the 25 accepted forms of Shiva for worship. Now, each of the forms has a particular function, a particular reason to be there. And we have seen a number of them showing the devotees how to live, how to worship, how to meditate, and so on. The last Murthy that we saw was Kala Samhara, Kangala Murthy. Kangala Murthy was the one that we looked at the last time. And today, I am supposed to do Kama Samhara Murthy. How Swami destroyed Manmada, Cupid. Now, the story I have already related, but a short form of it. Tarakasura and Surabhadma and other demons, after having performed intense tapas or having performed very hard austerities, had received boons from various gods. And with the strength of these, they were troubling the sages and the gods. And sometimes they imprisoned them and held them captive. Amaravati, the capital city of Devalokam, Devendra's capital, Amaravati was without any. There was not even a sliver of light there. It was all in darkness, and the occupants were always afraid of these guys. So they make a petition to Swami Shiva. And the terms of the boons that the demons had received is that they should not be slain or killed by a human being, a deity, an animal. Somebody equal to them, they should not die, or by a woman. And they forgot the term, to state the term that a child should not kill them. Now, Shiva was always immersed in tapas, and Parvata Rajakumari, that is the daughter of the Himalayas, she was involved in austerities to reach Shiva and marry him. Now the Devas wanted a means to disturb Swami's tapas. So they asked Manmada to go and ply his trade in front of Swami. His job is to make a male interested in a female and a female interested in a male. And Manmata and Rati, though very fearful, they go to Kailash, and Swami is deeply immersed in tapas, and Manmata shoots a flowery arrow at him using a sugarcane bow. And the bow is strung with male bees, brahmaram. That is, a string of bees form the string of the bowstring. You know how fickle and how active the brahmarams are. Brahmaram is male bee. So there's symbolism here. So when he fires the arrow, Swami opens his third eye, which is called Agni Netram. The right eye of Swami is called Kshatriya Netram. The left eye is called Brahmana Netram. And the center one is called Sudra Netram. The right eye is called Surya Netram. Left eye is called Chandra Netram. And the center one is called Agni Netram. And when he opens his eyes, Manmata is reduced to ashes. And Radhi, his consort, is heartbroken. And the Devi, ever compassionate, looks at her and does not want to see her without the symbols of auspiciousness that a woman should wear. So she implores Swami, please bring him back to life. And Swami, in his compassion, he says, okay, I'll bring him back, but only Radhi can see him. Nobody else can. For this reason, he is called Ananga. Radhi is happy. And the poet goes so far as to say that Swami Subramanya was born to protect the Mangalyam of two women. One is Radhi and the other one is Indrani, Indra's wife. Anyway, the story goes that Swami then becomes Kameshwara, Kalyana Sundara, and marries the Devi, and Subramanya is born. Now, this is the brief story of Kama Samhara. The Kama Samhara Murthy, a form of him, a statue of him, a Murthy of him, is in the Kurkai temple in Tamil Nadu. It's a bronze of Chola times, and it's quite very nice, quite beautiful. Now, similarly, Kala Samhara Murthy, the next one is Kala Samhara Murthy. Kala is Yaman, Yama. And Yama is supposed to have been destroyed by Swami. Out of the 25 forms, this is one form that was job specific. He appeared to protect the life of a 16-year-old boy so that he remains ever 16, who was fated to live only till he was 16, Markandeya. And as is the custom, many temples in many parts of India will claim that this is where it happened. In Tamil Nadu, there is a place called Tirukadayur, Tirugadaur, the Gatam. That means the pot of milk that came out of the Milky Ocean turned into a lingam. And that temple, that story also I have related before. This is a temple that is home to the famous Abhirami Devi. And Abhirami Andadi was sung in front of her temple in this complex. And the Utsava Murthy in this temple is made of bronze. You can see Yama being slain by Swami. The form is there. And this is the Utsava Murthy in the temple. And there is a Amrita Mrityunjaya mantra is chanted all the time. And that yantra is brought out. And the main business in this temple is Sashti Aptapurti, 60th birthday, Bhimarada Shanti, 70th birthday, or Sadabhishekam, 80th. At any given time, on any given day, there will be at least 8 or 9 or 10 different weddings taking place in that temple. People come there to get married and, celebrate their 60th. My 60th was celebrated here. And we were very lucky that we got a place. The place that was allotted to us was directly in front of the sanctum. And I was able to observe every puja that went on. When they did Abhishekam to the Shivalingam, I could see a form on the Shivalingam. I'm sure others saw it too. The form of a human being or some divine being was there. It's an old temple. So this is Kala Samhara Murthy. And in Tirukadavur, there is a Mayanam, another Shivan temple that is called Tirukadayur Mayanam. The other place where there is another Shivan temple with the name of Mayanam is Kanchipuram, Kachi Mayanam. And what struck me is that when I visited the temple, it is all but abandoned. There was an old man, about 70 years old. He's not from the Brahmin caste. So since the temple was abandoned, nobody bothered about it. He used to come and perform the puja to the best of his ability, to the best of his knowledge. What struck me about him was that he sang from the time he entered the temple till the time he exited the temple, he sang. And he had such a wonderful voice. I asked him whether he was a trained musician. He was not. He had been listening to the temple festivals. They play the Nadaswaram. He has been listening to them and he was singing. I did not want to leave the place because I spent all of 1.5 hours in there since he was singing at every Sannidhi. It was out of this world. Now, Kala Samhara Murthy is in Tirukadayur. Tirukadayur is about 4 hours from Chennai. Today, we are going to look at another Samhara Murthy. It's called Tripura Samhara Murthy. See whether you can pull it out. Tripura Samhara Murthy, there are many references to this and many stories. At least 2 or 3 different stories are there for this. Now, in this famous Tirupugal that we sing, Kaithalam Niraikani Appamodavalpuri, in that it says, Muppura Veri Saida, Achivan Urai Radam, Achadu Podi Saida Adidira. That's about Ganapati. That means when Shiva got ready to destroy the 3 citadels that were there, when he mounted his chariot, he forgot to think of Ganapati. And Ganapati destroyed the axle of his Achadu Podi Saida Adidira. So that Arunagirinatha sings of it in the in the Tripura for Ganapati. Now, Tripuram, Muppuram, Erisaida, Achivan, Urayana, Muppuram, 3 fortresses, 3 citadels, 3 states of consciousness. Now, here is the first of some of the explanations. Every human being has 3 states of consciousness. Jagrati, vacant state. Swapna, dreaming state. That means he is asleep. Sushupti, dreamless, deep sleep state. Jagrat, Swapna, and Sushupti. These 3 states are called Muppuram. They are called the 3 fortresses. Why? Because when a human being is on a journey inwards, having turned his or her attention inwards without going around and around in the circumference, when the turn occurs into the to the center, then one has to get over the 3 states of consciousness and be established beyond the 3 states of consciousness in deep, undifferentiated bliss. There is no ups and downs in that state. If you want to see the state in which one is ideally supposed to be, look at the rishis in front of Dakshinamurti. When you go to a Shiva temple, look at the statues and look at the expressions on them. You will see that they are totally oblivious of anything else. They are established in this bliss. So, Muppuram or Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti, beyond Sushupti is this state. Now, if a human being is going to oscillate between Jagrat, Swapna and Sushupti, it will be going up and down, up and down. Sometimes he or she will be experiencing the peace and the happiness and the bliss inside. Other times, he will be buffeted. So Swami decided that he would destroy they created a mythological story for this. Taraka, this Asura, remember, Tarakasura was finally vanquished by Subramanya Swami using the veil. And the veil is knowledge. Veil for Sri Vidya Upasakas is Panchadasakshan. Now, Taraka had 3 children, 3 sons. First one was called Tarakaksha. Second fellow was called Kamalaksha. And the third one was called Vidyunmani. Now, the father, who also has done many austerities and years of puja and tapas, you will notice that when the asuras or the demons, when they set out to get something, they will work absolutely hard towards it. Nothing will distract them. They won't mind whatever bodily pain or bodily discomfort is there. They will focus on the japam or on the meditation that they are doing. And Taraka advised the little boys as they were growing up, you must go and perform austerities towards Brahma. And you can ask him for whatever boons that you want. So these 3 fellows, they started to do tapas on the instructions of their father, and they stayed in that state for a long time. They performed these severe penances towards Brahma, and when he appeared, he told them they wanted long life, so he gave them 1,000 years. Now, if you remember the timetable that we were talking about, 1,000 years is probably millions of years in human life. And in the first Yuga, it may have been even more. He appeared to them and he gave them the 1,000 years life. And he also gave them, they asked him for 3 cities. And he gave them 3 cities that were orbiting the earth. They were on the, the idea of an orbit was there even in Puranic times. Otherwise, how would they know about the movements of Chandra? And what they did, they asked Brahma that unless all 3 of us were in a line, aligned, the person who can kill us will have to shoot just 1 arrow. And with that 1 arrow, he must pierce all 3 of us. Thinking that that would be an impossible task for anything. So, having obtained the boons, what they did, they would be invincible in those flying cities, Muppuram, citadels, fortresses. And they started oppressing the devas and the people who were, particularly people who were doing yajnas, which happened to be rishis. They destroyed them. And always harassing the devas and not allowing them to do any of their jobs. Now, if you look in Indra's court, Indra is responsible for the rains and thunder and lightning. So that was disturbed. And if that was disturbed, what would happen? The crops will not grow. And the rains will not come in time. They will deliberately make the rains come at any time they wanted. And sometimes when the crops were just about getting ready for harvest, they will destroy them. So like that, for Agni, the same thing. If you look at California and northern Siberia, you will understand. Uncontrollable wildfires have started there, and some of them have been burning for most of the coniferous forests in some of the northern parts of Siberia have been completely destroyed. Millions and millions of acres. So, untimeliness. Yama, they won't allow him to do his job. Yama is Dharma Raja, remember. And he will not take a life to Yamapattanam, to his citadel, to his city, unless it is time. With Markandeya also, he was not wrong. Markandeya's given lifespan was 16 years. And he appeared on that day and threw the noose at him. Similarly with Shankara. Shankara's allotted lifespan also was 16. Since he had not completed his task, Vyasa appeared and gave him another 16 years extension. Right? So he lived till he was 32. There are many such instances we can understand. So these fellows disrupted the works and the workings of Devaloka. Indra's court was in complete disarray. After everybody was asleep or before anybody was awake, they would call the dancers, divan musicians, and ask them to perform. Like that, complete disturbance and dislocation of people. They would send somebody somewhere, and this was becoming intolerable. And the universe was becoming in a state where there was total disarray. So, the gods and sages they approached Lord Shiva and very humbly they requested that these three must be destroyed and that he should help them. And they told him the terms of the boon that Brahma had given them. So now, what happened? Shiva agreed, and Shiva had to make preparations to counter Brahma's boons. So, what he did was, he took the earth and made a chariot out of the earth. The sun and the moon were wheels of the chariot. And the charioteer was Brahma. And the bow that he got was the mountain of Meru mountain. And the bowstring was Vasuki, the snake. And finally, he asked Vishnu to become an arrow of fire. And the moment that he got onto this chariot and started to move, Ganapati broke the axle of this thing. Then he realized that Ganapati was not worshipped. So you can see even Shiva can slip. Or maybe it was done so that the rest of us would learn from that experience. And he repaired it and he left and waited for these three cities that were in orbit to line up. And he fired the arrow at them. And this arrow of fire, is the same fire that the rishis used to do homam with. So Agni was not just a messenger. In this instance, he was a weapon. And the collection of all the homa agnis and yajna agnis that these rishis had performed had become one arrow. And the arrowhead pierced the three of them and they were destroyed. Now, there are many versions of this story. One is that Shiva did not wait for anybody to come and ask him. He felt that it was time that these fellows were taken out, and he took them out on his own, and he created everything. And it is also said in this version that these asuras used to worship Shiva. And after some time, like the rishis in Tarugavanam, who forgot who Shiva was, these fellows forgot who they were and started to live a godless existence. Now, here is something that is very important that we should know. If you look at the time over the last 200 years, our parents, our grandparents, great-grandparents, if you go back about 50 generations, we read from the records that were there. By the way, if you go to the banks of Ganges, if you go to Kashi, there are records of every family. And the priests who know how to interpret them will take those palm leaves and they go through the thing. It's like looking at logarithmic tables, and they will take one of it and then describe your entire lineage, what they have been doing. It's there even to this day. So anyway, let us say 50 generations ago, they would have been very knowledgeable about these things, and they would have had all the samskaras done in the house, and they would do regular pujas and offerings and all that. Now, look at the generation that is growing up in Canada, in the United States, in England, in Europe, and other countries. I mean, 10-year-olds, 8-year-olds. The faith quotient, the faith component is not there. They would just go to a temple because their parents are forcing them, but they are completely locked onto the devices that they carry in their hands. And they think that they can find out everything that is to be known through looking at them. So that faith component is missing. That state is where these three asuras were when Shiva decided to take them out. And they were living almost an atheist mindset, living in that kind of thing. Nothing. So once you don't believe in anything, what does it do to you? Eventually you will think you are at the center of everything. You see? Now that state is fast approaching in our community and in the world at large. If you look at it, you will understand. So places like the Sri Vidya Temple Society and Ashtanga Yoga Mandir, we have a God-given duty to inform these little ones that are growing up and find out some method, some trick to impart this faith into them and help them to have personalized experiences with the divine. It is easy for us in the Sri Vidya Temple Society, in the 50 odd years that I have been practicing, 55, 60 years, let us say, that I have been practicing, I have discovered the medium of stories and the medium of music. Both of them will attract the kids. If they are there, you can use both. You can use a mixture of music and stories. While you are singing, you can stop in between and pull their attention back by telling them a story. And that story can be, it should be, if it is a personal experience, then it will carry more weight. It will hit deeper. And once you have achieved the thing by distracting them, their wavering minds, you quietly pull them back with the story, talk to them, teach them. Guruji used to tell me, if you are doing puja and there are 150 people around you, if one person yawns, you have missed the mark. That means you have failed. So I would watch. Now I have stopped doing pujas for the past 6 or 7 years, but when I was very strong about doing pujas, very keen about it and very methodical about it, even during Sri Chakra Puja, even during the Sri Chakra Puja, when we used to do something, what I would do is stop halfway and tell a story or sing a song and explain the song and then quietly get the attention of the people and then bring them back to the mantras. I think this is the method that has worked for me. Now, there are other things that you can do. With the very devices and the technology that they are using to get distracted, right? Somewhere along the time, when you're doing puja or when you're doing a homam or when you're doing a bhajan or when you're doing all three together, you can draw their attention to the big television screen there and play a video. Short one, not a 15, 20 minute one, then they get completely distracted. And you have to choose and find out. Do your research and find out which will hold what kind of an attention it will hold them. Then pull them back to the puja again. So this is the state. This is the stage at which Shiva appeared to understand that these Asuras were moving away from divinity and moving away and beginning to center themselves on their own, thinking that they are the cause of everything. So he destroyed them. Now, it is very interesting. All the Hindus, all the Saivites wear Vibhuti, and the other symbol of a Saivite is Rudraksha. Rudraksha, if you see in places like Tiruvannamalai, even to this day there are people, the Puranas, Periya Puranam, that is the Tirutondar Periya Puranam that Sheklar wrote, it talks about feeding Shiva's devotees. And these Shiva's devotees are like Shivaganas. So what do they do? Anybody who is wearing Rudraksham around their neck or on the head and has Vibhuti marks on their body, they will take them and feed them. They will take them to their house, and the food would have been prepared in a methodical manner, in the prescribed manner. They will do Shiva Puja to them, treating them as Swami himself, and walk around them, do Pradikshanam 3 times, do Namaskaram, then feed them. Only after those devotees eat will they eat. Any of the listening audience, if you had accompanied me in 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 of those yatras that we used to do, we would always end up in Tiruvannamalai, and the temple used to own a house there. We still own a house and they don't know what to do with it. In that house, there was a gentleman by the name of Padmanabhan and Sampurnam, a couple. They are from a place called Chudamadi. And they used to do this daily, feeding Shiva's devotees. And whenever we went, they would be overjoyed and they would be very happy to give us lunch. And the lunch is like a wedding feast. They would take so much trouble. So anyway, I was talking about Rudrakshams. Rudra Aksham. It is during Tripura Samharam that the Rudrakshams were formed from Shiva's tears from the eyes. This is the time when it was formed. And when he destroyed them, according to the second version, he restored their faith in him. When they saw him at the point of death, they realized their mistakes and they went back and asked for his forgiveness. And the ever-forgiving Shiva, what did he do? He gave one of them, that is Tarakaksha. No, Vidyunmani. Let me see. Let me check. Vidyunmani. He gave Vidyunmani the job of fanning him with the fly whisk in Kailash. Can you see how compassionate he was? And the other two were absorbed into the hordes of Shivaganas that were there. So they became Shivaganas, these two. Now, it is interesting, like I told you before, my experience is limited to Tamil Nadu. There is a temple for Tripura in Tiruvadigai, Tiru Adihai, Adiham more, Adihai. There are places called in the whole of India, they are called Ashta Virattana Stalams. Viram is bravery. Shiva is supposed to have exhibited his brave actions in 8 places. One of them is Tiru Adihai. And this is where the Tripura Samharam is supposed to have taken place. It is near Kadalur. Very interesting facts have come out of this place. If you look at the Gopuram, it looks like a chariot, a tail. And Rajaraja Cholan is supposed to have visited this first, and it is calculated in such a way that the shadow does not fall on the ground. And he wanted to replicate it, and he went back to Tanjore and built it perhaps about 5 times this Gopuram. The Muhapu Gopuram, the eastern Gopuram, is 7 stages. Early Nilai. If you count those openings, you will know. And on top, what is peculiar about it is the Vimanam, the Kalasams are 7 in number on top. And inside this Tiruvadigai Veerattanam temple, there are interesting murtis. In one corner, you will find a Shivalingam with 3 faces. And the 4th face is looking up. The 3 faces are looking at cardinal directions. And in the Garbhagraham, if you go into the sanctum, the Shivalingam is Swayambhu, but it has got what is called Shodasapatta. That means 16 stripes are there on the lingam. If any of you had gone to the Kailasanatha temple in Kanchipuram, you will understand this. That also has the same kind. That has 8. That's called Pattai, 8 of them. In this Tiruvadigai Veerattanam, there are 16 of them. And the Devi is Tripura Sundari. Tiruvadigai Veerattanam temple. And interesting things are there in this temple. Can you bring other pictures of that are related to the Tripura Samhara? The Tiruvadigai, now the Sthala Vriksham. Here is Sarangondrai, they are cassia fistula and almonds. See what is below. This is the Sthala Vriksham in the temple. It seems about 300, 400 years ago. The temple is built based on Pallava architecture. The Pallava architecture is what was there before. Okay? The Pallava architecture is what gave rise to the Pandyan style and the Chola style. And the art of casting murtis and all that came from there. Now this Sthala Vriksham, Sthala Vriksham, and S is missing from there. After the K, it should be SHAM. Anyway, you can make that correction next time. Tiruvadigai Veerattanam. If you make a trip to India, please go and see these places when the information is fresh in your mind, right? I'll stop here today because it's already late. Questions? Do we have any more slides on Tripura Samhara? That's it. Okay. Questions?
Yeah, one question is Rishi Markandeya mentioned in the Devi Mahatmyam the same as the one that you mentioned today?
Yes. It's the same.
So he went on to have...
Of course, after Swami gave him an extension, indefinite extension of life, he became one of the Siranjeevis. So he's around even to this day like Hanuman. And like Dronacharya's student, Aswatthama is also son. Aswatthama is also hanging around. So yes, it's the same.
Yeah, what is the difference between worshipping Shiva Murthy with Devi and without Devi? Is it difficult to get the grace of Shiva if there is no Devi accompanying him?
Let me explain it to you in terms of modern information, not Vedic things. If you try, Tambi, if you try to worship or if you try to split an atom, can you separate the atom from the atomic structure from the valencies around it, from the orbits of the electrons and the nucleus? You cannot. The nucleus happens to be Shiva, and the energies around it with the electrons buzzing around the nucleus is the Devi. You cannot separate one from the other. If you try, there will be disaster. The energies that will be released will not be, you will not be able to control it. That is why they are so worried about, atomic fission. Anything happening, you cannot control that chain reaction that you set off. So, no, there are examples of people who try to worship Shiva. Bhrigu Rishi is one of them. Ravana is one of them. He wanted only one portion of it, and you cannot do that. And the Sahasranamam, Lalita Sahasranamam gives you a clue. In the end, it says, Siva Shakti Aikya Rubini Lalitambika. You can't worship her alone, you can't worship him alone. Next one.
Yeah. Is there any Murthy other than Vishnu that is picturized lying down?
Swami himself, in a temple called Surutapalli in the Kanchipuram area, immediately after he ingested the poison that came out from the ocean of milk. It's actually not the poison that came out from the ocean of milk, it was the poison of Vasuki. In the agony of not being able to bear the pain, she let out the poison and he took that. And Devi placed her hand on the neck and stopped the poison from going down. And it is said that for a few moments or minutes, Shiva was stunned and he lay down on Devi's lap. That Murthy is there in a place called Surutapalli. Up till a few years ago, the Pradhana Prasadam in that temple was Surutu. That means cigars. They gave you cigar if you went there. Right. Other than Vishnu, that is lying down. Next question.
Yeah, you mentioned a lot of Puranic tales, right? And these are often associated with temples. So what should be the attitude when you go to a temple? Should you dwell on the story, or maybe the metaphors in the story? Where should the focus be when we hear these stories, especially as adults?
All of the above. All of the above. You should recall. So it is always better to read up on a temple before you are going to visit the place. Let us say you're going to Patadakal or you're going to Kailasanatha temple in Ellora, right? You read up about whatever that you can get about the temple and go inside. Otherwise, you will be going like somebody with their eyes closed. Only if you know, at various places, you will know what it is like. There's one place where there is a stambam in front. The temple is about 6,000 to 7,000 years old, I'm told. And of course, like any temple in India, it has been renovated over a period of years. And there is a stambam, that means a pillar. One stone pillar, which is probably about 35-40 feet high. Right? Down below, if you come and look at the pillar, there are three. That pillar is, the base is square of the pillar. 3 places it is touching the ground. And the fourth one, you can even pass a piece of cloth out on that and it is not touching. But it is there. It seems it was used in the ancient world. One other similar structure was found in China too. to warn people about earthquakes. If a tremor was approaching, tiny stones would fall from the top. And there were bells on that square piece of stone that was placed on top, bells hanging, and the earth, when it started to move, the bells would ring. See, such technology, we have not read anywhere that these things were available to our people, but they did. They have had this. Now they are showing interest. There is another temple where the most beautiful Mohini forms are carved. I mean, if you look at them, the facial expressions, the form of the body, the artisan has not spared any pains. If you pour some water, that water will flow on top of the Mohini's head. It will flow down and it will come to the tip of the nose and fall between the two hands and fall exactly between her 2 feet. Such precision is there. Now in this Tiruvadigai Veerattanam temple, this is the first place, this is the place where Appar Swami converted back to Saivaisam. When he had that pain, this is where his sister came and gave him the Vibhuti and said, you apply it on your stomach and the pain disappeared. And he sings, Kutra Inavaru Vilakkahale, Kodumai Palasaidana Nananye, Etrayadike, Iravum Pagalum, Piriyadu Vananguvana Podusum, Totradan Baitin Agambadiye, Kudarodu Tudaki Mudaki, Kudaris Kudal, Kudarodu Tudaki Mudaki, Atrain, I am not able to bear, Adiyen, Adige Kadila, Veerattana Thurayammane, Thiruveerattanam. This is where he sang. So Thiruveerattanam is from where the first Thevaram was sung there. That is where the Thevaram Padiyam started. And just the Gopuram, as you pass the Gopuram, as you are passing the Gopuram on the inside walls, there are exquisitely carved, beautiful women in all 108 Karanams of Shiva. Not Shiva, they have carved this as women depicting it on both sides. There are 108 of them on either side. So these are some of these sculptures that are there. Every temple, I'm sure, when you go to any state, any temple will have hundreds of stories like this. And this is one of them. Okay, we'll see you again next week.
Thank you, Ayya.
Oh, one second. Go back, Ayya. Today happens to be Mr. Vyasa's birthday. Wherever he is, many happy returns of the day, and may the Devi bless you with long, long, long and fruitful life. Thank you. Today is his birthday.
Thank you, Ayya, for teaching us more about the different forms of Shiva. We are excited to continue learning more about the other various forms of Shiva in the upcoming sessions. Just a reminder to all, we will not have a yoga session today. To access all our content from prior sessions, please do visit srividya.org/AYM-lectures. Thank you everyone for joining us for today's session. We will see you all next session. Thank you.